Okay. Good morning. Morning. How are you doing today? I'm very well, thank you. Today we'll be covering aspect of population, right?
Yes.
Population. Within population, we will be covering what we call movement. So it's population movement, migration, simply put.
Yes.
Right? Who can tell me what is migration?
And movement of people from one place to another.
Before they said raise our hand. What happened? Okay, cool. Let's settle down. Let's settle down. Can we settle down? Okay, good. Migration is basically what? The movement of people from one place to another. With what? With the intention of finding a place of residence. Okay, with finding a place to stay. Alright? Within migration, we have multiple types of migration. Who knows one at least? Just one kind of migration? Okay. We have immigration with an I. We'll come to that. And then we have emigration with an E. Emigration with an E. Who can tell me what is the difference other than the two letters? That should hint you though. It should give you a hint of what is it that we're talking about. I means? Okay. Let me just break it down to you guys. Immigration with an I, it's basically movement of people into a place. So when we talk about an I, just remember this. When we talk about an I, it is it is internal and related to imports. Because imports are things that we take what from wherever into the country, right? Into South Africa, right? And then when you talk to immigration, that's the nice thing about geography, it's the opposite. When you talk about the opposite of immigration, which is emigration, we are basically talking about the movement of people out of a country, meaning exiting the country. Exiting the country. And again, remember, exit, E, external, and then export, related to exports. Because exports are things that we take out of this country to other countries. Simply put, that's migration in essence. We've covered almost everything now. Once you know these two, because we are going to keep on relating to them, once you know these two, you're good. Alright, we're going further now. We're going deep now. Okay. Who can tell me, or who can give me a guess for what's the other kind of migration? There's plenty actually. There's plenty. For example, when a person moves away from the rural areas into the urban areas, what do we call that? We call that rural to urban migration. But if we have this, surely we have the opposite, which is the movement of people from what? From urban areas into the rural areas. Okay, now we're here. Rural to urban migration, the movement of people from rural areas into urban areas. Simple. But now we know that this is also going to bring about another process that is going to happen, and it's going to occur throughout the process, which is what? Urbanization. What is urbanization? Urbanization. Oh, come on. Where's the energy? Come on. Urbanization. Like we say, we are moving from the rural areas into the urban areas. So what is urbanization? Movement of people to what? Towards the urban areas.
Yes.
Urbanization. Towards urban areas. Towards urban areas. And then now we come down to the opposite of this. We come down to the opposite of this. What do we come to? We come to urban areas, urban to rural migration. Meaning people move from urban areas, for example, moving from Gauteng to where? To stay in Limpopo. Okay? Or more than Limpopo, so good. Urban areas which is GP to where? To Limpopo. Right? To Limpopo in the rural areas. And that is the movement of people from the urban to the rural. Self-explanatory. Self-explanatory. There's no way you can get it wrong. How about talking about urban to rural? You know that's the movement. How about talking about rural to urban? You know that is the movement. Okay? Here, for example, that's something like moving from Western Cape to come to Gauteng, looking for better opportunities. Okay? But now, that's not all. There's more. There's more. There's more. Who can tell me what more? Who wants more? Who wants more? You don't want more.
You want them, but you don't know them.
You want money. Okay. Now that we are talking about those kind of migrations, we can talk again about what regional migration and international migration. Regional migration and international. Am I international? Yeah. I'm a lover. Yeah. When we talk about regional migration, we are literally talking about what? People moving within their borders. Within the same, somebody said it, like moving within South Africa. For example, the example that we just did, the rural migration to the urban areas, that is regional migration. Okay? So that is you moving within the same area or region. And then again, we come to the international one, which is essentially the opposite of that.
Yes.
So if you are moving within the same regions, within the borders, then what are we doing here?
We used to do that in
We're moving across there. We're moving across borders. That is you moving, for example, from where? From South Africa into Botswana, or from South Africa to what? To Mozambique. From South Africa to Mozambique. That is across
the border.
the borders. That is across the borders. For example, people move on a daily basis from Mozambique into South Africa, and it can literally take them about 10 minutes or 20 minutes. Yes, because when you move from Mozambique, crossing the border into Venda, it's like that. It's like me moving from here to the door. It's as simple as that. Because when we talk about international, people start thinking, hey, you have to book a flight, right? You have to go into a ship, a big ship, right? But it is as simple as that. Also, the example that we have in international migration, we can talk about what? We can talk about slavery. When you talk about slavery, it's an example of migration. And we're gonna go into details as to whether it is voluntary migration or forced migration. But when people were being moved from Africa into the States,
To work for people without getting paid.
to work for people without getting paid, that kind of slavery, it's basically migration. Is it free or is it forced?
Forced.
It's forced migration. So now that brings us to our next point. 2 points of what? Of migration. It's both forced and voluntary. When it's voluntary movement or voluntary migration, we are talking about people that move from a place of their residency looking for a new place, right? Not because they are forced by situations or anything, but because they feel like, okay, no, I actually want to move on my free will. There is a person that says, no, I don't want to go to the University of Pretoria. No, I don't want to go to the University of Free State. I don't want to go to the Vets University, but I would like to go to Massachusetts University, to the University of Canada, okay? And they feel like, no, I'm going to move from SA to where? To Canada on my free will. I'm not forced, but I feel like, no, I just want to go. Whereas when we come to the counterpart, the opposite, the forced migration, we're talking about people that are forced, they are propelled by certain situations that they should actually move from one state to the next. What kind of situation would force a person to move away from a place?
Work, say.
Yes, somebody said poverty. Somebody said work. Explain work. Work how? English is ha. What happened? What happened? What happened? No. Give it a try. We'll fix it. Help it, guys. Help it.
When you don't get the salary that you are expecting.
Okay, when you are getting the salary that you're not expecting.
Yes.
Okay. All right. We can argue that. Better employment opportunities.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. No. We clear. But now again, I love this thing because now it's linking. You know, it's taking us back to what? To the reasons why people would actually move to certain places, or they would actually move out of certain places. Okay. Now that brings us to our push-pull factors or model. Push-pull model. This model basically gives us a reasons as to why people move into places and move out of places. Okay? We have push here. We have to pull. Yeah, no. I'm listening now. Why would you, which one should we start with? Pull or push? Push. Okay, let's start with push. Why would you, or what would push a person out of a certain place?
To look for a better life, say.
Okay, a better life, like you said. So, a higher standard of living would. Okay, but that would rather pull you, not push you. That would rather pull you, not push you. High standard of living. Someone said poverty. But I didn't see a hand. Can I have eyes here? You said poverty. Poverty. Another one said economy, and I know it's you. Yes. Economy how? How?
Looking for a developed country.
Okay, developed country. But now if it's a developed country, then it means it will pull you, not push you. Because if we are living in a developed country, why would I want to live? Okay. So developed country, or rather development. Okay. Whether still explain it.
If your skin is allergic to the sun, never put your phone.
Okay. So harsh conditions.
Yes.
Okay. Now if we're gonna talk about harsh conditions, we might as well talk about what natural disasters. Okay? And when you talk about natural disasters, what are natural disasters? Snow.
It's no Makati.
Matsatsi. Is that English? Is that English? What's matsatsi, guys? What is matsatsi?
Oh, sunset.
Okay. Okay. So when we talk about natural disasters, we talk about things like erupting volcanoes, we talk about earthquakes, we talk about flooding, we talk about drought. Those are a few examples of a natural disaster. And those will definitely push you. I mean, if we have drought and we cannot produce food, why would we want to stay there? Why would we want to stay in a place where there's no food? If the sun is too hot, like she's saying, for your skin, and you have high chances of getting cancer, why would you stay there? I mean, we don't want to die, do we?
No.
Yes, no. Do you guys want to die?
No.
Yes. Okay, what more? Yes,
Lack of jobs.
lack of jobs, lack of employment.
Poor education.
Eish, tango.
Very limited.
Poor education. I've been waiting for that. Poor education. Yeah, last one. Give me the last one.
That one is
Most important. Okay, somebody say culture. Under the social aspect, under social factors. Okay, let's just put it here. Culture. How? Culture how? Explain culture. When you cannot identify with the people, you would actually be forced. For example, this goes hand in hand with what with racial migration. Because and now if it's under racial migration, then it means we're gonna have to talk. I'm giving you the answer now, unfortunately. Now we're gonna talk about war and conflict. War and conflict. This is taking us back to 1994 when Mandela was released from prison. Okay, a lot of white individuals thought that they would be chased away from South Africa as a whole, okay, because of the apartheid, the history of our country, okay. But that was not the case. But they thought that they were actually going to want to be chased away or killed or something like that. So some of them actually did what migrated. They moved from here, going back to Europe and all other places. Okay. And then again, it's taking us back to what's the culture, the aspect of culture that you said. When you talk about culture, if you cannot identify with the place, or the place is Muslim and you are Christian and you are Christians, you can definitely not belong to that place. You are going to be forced to migrate. Okay? Good. Now we come to the nice parts, the positives, good factors. What would make you want to go to a place? What would attract you into a place?
Soil.
Soil. Say something about soil.
Finding a
Fertile soil. So now we're talking agricultural purposes kind of soil. Okay? Fertile. If it allows for people to actually have what? The ability to produce food. Okay? More? Politics. Okay, what about politics?
You hate politics.
Mara, there's no place that doesn't have politics. They don't, yeah, okay. So, but that is taking us to war and conflict. Because also during the looting, the whole, when KZN was being looted and everything, a lot of people actually moved away from KZN because it was not a safe place at that point, right? And now that is going to bring us to the two types of migration as well. The two kinds or states of migration, okay? But we're gonna get there. Only two types. Again, we still at pool. You said politics, okay? And then you said develop. Oh, definitely. falls under developed. Because if the politics of the country are stable, then you would want to dwell in that place. Okay? Politics, yes. Last one, let's do the last one.
Transport
Yes.
and communication.
The? I can't hear you.
Better education.
Better education, definitely. Better education or employment. Better education and employment. Okay, somebody was saying something here.
Transport and communication.
Transport and communication. Okay, which is going to fall under what? Development. Trans and communication. Clear? Clear? Read rapidly.
Yes,
That is the movement of people. Population is people, movement adds movement. Simply put, people moving. Okay? Now we doing the last part. I said we have the last part again. As a beautiful. Okay, no, let's just write that. The two states of what of migration. So we have both temporary movement, temporary migration, and permanent migration. What is temporal migration and what is permanent migration? Yes.
temporary moving for a small period of time, say.
Okay, small period of time.
And permanent is when you are going to stay or live for the rest of your life, say.
Okay, this is forever, not returning. For good. Okay, very correct. I'll just reiterate what he said. Okay, so temporary migration is basically when people move from one place to another. To, for example, if we were going to talk about education, okay, to make sure that they get a degree from somewhere, okay, to make sure that they work for 6 years or 5 years and they go back home, okay, those are what temporary migrants, people that move temporarily. So, okay, for example, if we have a natural disaster and there's flooding under Tudorukali, we're gonna migrate and go to another place. But as soon as the flood has passed and now the soil and everything is dry, we can go back, rebuild, and be there again, which is now temporary migration. But when we come to the permanent migration, we are talking about people that are going to live there for good. People that go forever. You are not going to change their mind. They are there forever. Okay? For example, when we look at the map of Africa as a whole, okay, we have to remember something, that we are not necessarily. No, there's no job. So when we talk about Africa as a whole, okay, when we talk about Africa as a whole, and we see that people that are dwelling within South Africa are actually down here, can I remind you something? We were not always within South Africa. This space was a free space. We are from up in the continent. But when there was colonization, European people coming down and colonizing Africa, what happened was that instead of only the Khoi and the San dwelling in South Africa only, we came down migrating. We came down migrating, running away from what? From the wars and conflicts of what? Of colonization, and actually coming down into South Africa. But now we are not going up there anymore, are we?
No.
We are good here. So what is that? Permanent. Migration. Simple. If I give you an activity right now,
3.
let me give you something. Classmate. No, just On a piece of paper? On a piece of paper? Okay. Give us how many? 5 reasons. 5 reasons people would go. Or rather, let's just say, give us 5 reasons people are pulled into a certain place. Keyword is pulled into a certain place. All right, and then give the difference between we're marking it now, okay?
Yes.
Yes. Give the difference between emigration and immigration. So this is going to be 5 months. And this is going to be 4. And then another 4 for the difference between temporary and permanent migration. Temporary and permanent migration. And then another 4 months. Another 4 months. Let's see. 12, 17. Okay. Another 4 months. How many? We're making it 20, I guess. We're making it 20. Another 4 months is going to be between forced migration and voluntary migration. And then for another 3 months, you can tell us what you think about migration. Tell us what you think about migration, but not only that, give us an example of a situation that demonstrates migration, okay? And tell us what type of migration the situation is demonstrating. We have 20 marks, and we have 10 minutes.